Good morning, everyone. Welcome once again to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. And Lenny, okay, let's talk about some specifics about your show. First of all, it reminded me of when you used to take your baseball cards and flip over on the back and compare stats. Who had more hits, who had more doubles, who had more triples. When you got to the end of the cards, whoever had the most wins in those categories was deemed the better player. Okay. So it just reminded me of those days when we would do that. And as Lenny went through position by position this morning, if you missed it, go back, listen to his show. It was absolutely incredible. And then the advertising that he gives me at the end of the show about selling a house every day, boy, wouldn't that be great? But I'm working at it, Lenny. I promise you, I am really working at it. I heard as I was listening to Lenny, I decided I'd bring out a couple of cards this morning. And in case you can't see because of glare, these are autographed Aries Arena baseball cards from this year. And you notice he's wearing a Cardinal uniform. Wow. I think that's a show for another day. Let's talk about the players that the Cardinals have traded away who have gone on to stardom with other teams, because there are a lot of them. Aries Arena being one of those. And what I want to do this morning is talk baseball first. We know tonight at 8:08, first pitch, glass now, Kershaw, Dodgers, Rays, Fall Classic 2020. And the first thing I want to say about the World Series is this. I think it's interesting that you've got a 60-game regular season, and during that 60-game regular season, the two teams with the best records in the American and National League, respectively, were the Rays and the Dodgers. And the purpose of having a 160-game schedule typically is, over the course of a 162-game schedule, the goal objective is to make sure that the best teams win. Okay, that we don't have a 3 or 4 week hot streak that determines a champion. And there was concern that may happen this season, right? With 60 games, you have a team have a 20, 25 game hot streak. And during the regular season, it did help teams' posture and position for the playoffs, no doubt about it. But with the added wild card round within the AL and NLDS, the AL and NLCS, I think you added enough games so that anyone who was talking, put an asterisk on 2020, needs to think about it again. Take the asterisk off. Only two teams won 40 games during the regular season, the Rays and the Dodgers. Only two teams are in the World Series, the Rays and the Dodgers. And as Lenny did such a great job analyzing positions, I think the World Series, I don't think it's a 4-gamer. I think it's going to go more than 4 games for sure. Maybe I'm wrong. A lot of it depends on maybe a few players. And I want to spend a little time this morning talking about a few players who could certainly shape the World Series. And let's take a look first at my baseball card, Aries Arena. What's he done in the playoffs so far? Well, he has been absolutely incredible. How about this stat line? 14 games, 55 at bats, 14 runs, 21 hits, 7 home runs, 10 RBIs, 47 total bases. Now, the advantage Aries Arena had in the playoffs to this point, we've heard this before. Teams don't have a book on a rookie. Okay? It takes a few games for an opposing team to get a book on a rookie. Aries Arena played some during the regular season. I had him on a fantasy team. I noted he was pretty good, really good now. Great now, it seems. But every player has a weakness, and you know that the Dodgers have been scouting, watching tape, watching tendencies. First of all, from what I've seen as a casual fan and a former, thought I was a player at one time, don't throw this guy a fastball across the plate. I think the key is with an Aries Arena, try to throw off speed in fastball counts and try to throw the opposite. Okay, so if I'm expecting a fastball 2-1, throw an off-speed pitch. If I'm expecting an off-speed pitch 1-2, maybe throw the fastball. I think you got to mix it up with him. And he has shown a great patience at the plate. Aries Arena will be a key player in how this World Series is determined. Now, we saw in the playoffs, and this is a little scary, okay, when we saw Cody Bellinger injure himself with that home run, reports are he's fine, he's ready to go. Bellinger hit 250 in the playoffs so far with 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 24 total bases. He's hitting a total of 365. And so, well, that's his on-base percentage. He's hitting 250, 365 is his OBP. Bellinger is critical. I mean, you look at that Dodger lineup and you look at players up and down the order. Lenny went through those this morning. Your Kiki Hernandez's. Kiki probably won't play tonight with Glasnow on the mound. Bellinger will. How Bellinger fares against a Tyler Glasnow, that left-handed bat. Corey Seager the same way. Seager, the NLCS most valuable player. And can Seager, like Aries Arena, continue to stay hot in the World Series? You know that the Rays have been looking at the book. Now, during the regular season, Corey Seager hit 307, didn't have the power that he's shown in the playoffs with those 7 big home runs. Seager's critical to the Dodgers. The left-handed bats, because here's where I'm going with this. The Rays bullpen, as great as it is, it's very right-handed. Now, I know they have a lefty or two, sure. But it's very right-handed when it comes to the back end of that bullpen. And so the Dodgers having those left-handed bats, the Bellingers, the Seagers, critical in this series. You know, you look at who the Rays have played to this point. When they played the Yankees in the ALDS, how many, really awesome left-handed bats are in that Yankee lineup? And the answer is none. And that's the area the Yankees will have to look at in the offseason. So when they face these right-handed pitchers, it was right on right, advantage Tampa. Against Houston, Correa, Springer. Now, Michael Brantley, a lefty. But let's face it, Brantley is a good hitter, but Brantley doesn't have the power that Seager and Bellinger have shown so far in the playoffs this year. So that, to me, is the key to LA. Now, another key to LA is their bullpen. Okay, Dustin May has been used as an opener. He's been used in middle relief. He's been, well, the jury's out. He's been good. He's not been good. Gosselin could be the key to the series for the Dodgers. How he pitches, how Baez, look, Jansen's not what he used to be. The bullpen of Tampa, to me, is the clear winner when you compare, and I agree with Lenny, when you compare the teams, starting pitching, relief pitching, first base, all up and down the order. The relief pitching for Tampa, to me, is the strength. And the one thing that makes me think Tampa will win the World Series, if they do, it'll be because their bullpen came through in a big way. And to counteract that bullpen, the Dodger left-handed bats have to be ready to go. Now, there was some talk, let's go to the Tampa side, some talk that Wander Franco might be activated for the World Series. If you have lived under a rock since 2017 or 18, let me push the rock away and let me tell you about Wander Franco. Number one international prospect in all of baseball. Shortstop, teenager, 19 years old. There is nothing reportedly he can't do. Run fast, hit power, make contact, defensively, slick, all of it. A great awareness on the field. And though it doesn't seem like they're going to do it, boy, wouldn't that be quite the twist to the World Series to place Franco on the active roster? Tampa has nothing to lose, okay? It wouldn't affect service time. Remember the guy for the Twins who got his first hit but doesn't have a hit yet? You know, it kind of boggles the mind. Kirilloff does not have a hit, but he does. So Franco could come out if he were to be activated, be on the postseason roster, and could be a huge factor. Again, as Aries Arena didn't have a book against him, neither does Franco. Anyway, maybe that's wishful thinking from a fantasy person, but wouldn't that be incredible for Wander Franco to pop out of nowhere and make the World Series roster? It would be incredible. You know, who knows? Glasnow's key tonight. I think the Rays. There's never, I don't know there's a must-win game until you're down 3-0 or 3-1 or 3-2. Until there's an elimination game, there's really not a must-win game. But I think tonight, game one is more important to Tampa than it is to the Dodgers. And you may ask me, why is that? Well, Glasnow has been their go-to guy. And let's face it, Walker Buehler has become that go-to guy for LA. If the Dodgers were to win tonight and beat Glasnow, frankly, I've not been impressed with Blake Snell. The Yankees hit him pretty good. Houston hit him. I mean, I've not been that impressed. If he's not been hit, like he went 5 innings against Houston, he just doesn't give you the depth, the length that you typically want from a starting pitcher. So Glasnow strikes out a ton. If he comes out and he dominates tonight and the Rays win game one, I think that gives Tampa, puts them where they want to be. If Tampa were to start Glasnow and he lose, and he's starting, then I think the advantage goes to Dodgers because number one, you would have beaten Glasnow, Tampa's number one pitcher, without your number one pitcher. I mean, Kershaw's good, but if Kershaw wins and Glasnow loses, think about that psychic. First of all, Kershaw in his last appearance against Atlanta really wasn't effective. We know the history of Kershaw in the playoffs. It's not been that good. What a lift it would be for LA if Kershaw comes out and throws a gem and they beat Tampa. Likewise, if Tampa comes out and throws the gem, I just think it sets a tone for the series for Tampa to either win or lose from the Tampa perspective. I don't think it's as big to the Dodgers if they win or lose tonight. I think then game two becomes huge for LA. But that's another day. That's another story. We got to get past game one first. We shall see how it goes. Aries Arena versus Kershaw tonight. Don't you know that is must-watch TV wherever you are? I can't wait to see what or how Kershaw approaches Aries Arena. And Brousseau has also been a great right-handed bat. I think he may be, I'd say, underestimated. I think Brousseau could be, I'm going to go and predict him. I think Brousseau's bat tonight is the bat to watch for Tampa. As I think Bellinger and Seager are that important to LA, I think Brousseau will be for Tampa. We shall see. So let's give a prediction. Are you ready? I'm going to go with the Rays in game one. I'm going to say Glasnow does pitch his game. The Rays come out. They win game one. That'll prepare us for game two. Okay, so let's move on to a little fantasy football this morning. I'm going to go through some players of the week, if you will. I'll tell you about a team I've got. I'm in a league with 14 teams. I've told you that before. Very competitive. It's called the Justice League. And it involves a bunch of lawyers and judges. Or in my case, I used to be a judge. How about that? So it's really competitive. I start the year losing I think my first head-to-head this year, I lost by 4 points. I had 3 players get injured in the same game. Kittle got injured for San Francisco. James Conner got injured for Pittsburgh, and Van Der Esch got injured for Dallas. All in the first quarter. I lost by 4 points. You got to figure if they play, I'd win again week 1, right? Didn't happen. Week 2, I lost by 1.5, and I've won 4 in a row since. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But look at some hot fantasy players this week and who, if any of these, may be available in your league. Now, most of these are not available in your league, but I want to ask you a couple of questions because Derrick Henry's not available, scoring over 40 points this week with 212 yards rushing. He's not available. Let's not talk about that. Justin Jefferson from Minnesota, probably not available. As I go down my list and look at players who played well this week, how about Phillip Rivers, quarterback for the Colts, who a week ago was all but washed up, and this week Phillip Rivers passed for 371 yards, 3 touchdowns, and in my half-point PPR, that was good for 28.64 points. Did you watch the Cowboy-Arizona game last night? Okay, if you did, and you have a player, either you or a player in your league who has Kenyon Drake, late in the game, Drake is handing the ball off. He runs untouched for a touchdown, 60-some yards, TD, late in the game. It didn't matter. But if you're a fantasy player this morning, it did matter. In a league that I am in, this one league, I looked at it, took a screenshot of it. Right as the touchdown was scored, there's a little delay in the scoring. It showed the team without Drake, the chances of winning were 99%. A few moments after Drake scored the touchdown, it flipped to 99 the other way. I mean, can you imagine being a Drake owner, if you weren't, watching him score that and then it changing your fantasy week from a loss to a win? He may be available in waiver wires across the world because Kenyon Drake has not been doing very well of late. But last night in my league, he scored 28.4 points. Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback for the 49ers, 3 passing touchdowns on 23 completions, 25.82 fantasy points this past week. And a changing of the guard in Detroit. Now, Adrian Peterson has been the running back of choice of the Detroit Lions coaching staff. This week, Deandre Swift, the rookie, gets more touches. Deandre Swift had 2 rushing touchdowns, 116 rushing yards, 3 receptions, 25.8 fantasy points. Ronald Jones, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay played Green Bay. Green Bay jumps out to a 10-0 lead against Tampa. Aaron Rodgers is cooking with gas. And then that's it. No more scoring. Tampa scores like 38 more points. It was incredible. 38-10. 38 unanswered points. And at one point, while down 10-0, I watched Tom Brady on the sideline go over to his teammates and just chew them out. Yeah. And from that point on, it was all Tampa, nothing Green Bay. And Ronald Jones, the second, 2 rushing touchdowns, 113 yards rushing, 2 receptions for 25 fantasy points last week. Christian Kirk last night, 2 touchdowns for Arizona, 21 fantasy points. And how many of you guys have ever heard of Anthony Ferkser? Anthony Ferkser, tight end, back up for Tennessee. Their regular tight end out last week with an injury, and Anthony Ferkser steps in with a touchdown on 8 catches, 123 yards, 21.3 fantasy points. And then finally, these are players that could be available on waiver wires. Another tight end, Trey Burton for the Colts, scoring over 20 fantasy points with a rushing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and 58 yards through the air. So these are just some players to keep your eye on if you have a fantasy team with need of a tight end. I've mentioned a couple there. With need of a quarterback, we're getting into the the bye weeks. And the bye weeks mean you have roster spots available. In my league this week, I had the Indianapolis defense. They're on bye this week. I went and picked up the Tampa Bay defense. There's a good reason why. I watched Tampa Bay play against Green Bay Sunday. And, first of all, there was no preseason, as you know. So it's taken a few weeks to work the kinks out. Tampa Bay defense, fast, hungry. They're playing my Raiders this week in Las Vegas, and I hope my Raiders do well. But watching them play last week, the Tampa Bay defense, that is, they're fast to the ball. They're big up front. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with in reality and fantasy for the rest of the season, and they're coming together at the right time. Their secondary is good. Their linebackers are attacking. Defensive line, I picked them up. And also, if you watch the 49er Ram game on Sunday, Mostert goes out with a high ankle sprain. Those are 4 to 6 weeks on the IR. And now they have a player they have called up to take his, maybe not to take his place, but it's an interesting situation for the 49ers. First of all, you never really know who's going to be running the ball, okay? They've got Jerick McKinnon, who should be stepping back into the starting role. But on Sunday, JaMycal Hasty comes into the game after the Mostert injury. He rushed 9 times for 37 yards and looked really fast, really strong. I think, and I'm recommending if you're in a fantasy league where JaMycal Hasty is available and you have a roster spot where you can burn it, JaMycal Hasty is worth taking a flyer on. Did I say start him this week? No, I didn't say that. I said he's worth taking a flyer on. Put him on your roster. Let's see how it plays out this week with the 49ers. If you've got Jerick McKinnon and Hasty, like I do in my league, I think you've covered it pretty well. They should be the two most likely candidates to get the ball in the 49er offense. And frankly, the 49ers, the way they looked against the Dolphins 2 weeks ago and the way they looked against the Rams this past week, 2 totally different teams. Totally different. Good morning, Lenny Melnick. Good to see you on StreamYard this morning. And good morning to my friends in our chat room, on our webpage, our Lenny Melnick Fantasy Sports page. You guys in the chat room are always awesome. It's great to see you with me this morning, talking about baseball, talking about football. It's that time of year where there's a whole lot to talk about and just a little bit of time to do it, right? Lenny and I have had this conversation, how we could do this every day, time allowing, how much fun it is to get on the air, talk about our sports teams, sit in here with my Yankee ghost behind me. You see Rivera and Derek Jeter above my head, and just have fun. And that's what this is all about. Sharing information, talking about what might happen tonight in the World Series, going over some of these fantasy football props, potential players on the waiver wire. And you guys are just great. And this is like I'm close to 200 episodes. It's like, wow. It's been really awesome. You guys are great. So thank you for that. Thank you for being with me today on this Tuesday, October 20th. I'm going to be back on Thursday. We're going to have 2 World Series games under the belt. Remember, I'm saying the Rays win game 1. I think the Dodgers take game 2. Probably will go the other way around. But anyway, I'm saying Thursday morning when I'm with you, we're going to have a knotted 1-1 World Series. That's my prediction. 1-1. And let's watch those players that I'm talking about today. Let's watch how those bullpens perform. It could be the strength in the Rays case. It could be the Achilles heel in the Dodgers case. We'll talk about it on Thursday, right back here on Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. Have a great day, everybody.